Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, and you're here with us on Sun Up on 7. Thank you so much for starting your day, starting your Friday, starting your weekend with us. We're so thankful for everything that you do with us on Fair Interaction. It's time for our first conversation, and we have the Minister of the Hour here with us. We have Minister Perez, the Minister of Blue Economy and Civil Aviation. As you know, there has been many topics as it relates to blue economy, which relates to the silky restoration efforts that are going down south, the Sargassum situation that's happening in San Pedro, Anquicaca, and other coastal areas, and of course, the lobster regulation. So those are the three topics that we're going to be talking about today. So accompanying Minister Perez, you have Mr. Rigoberto Quintana, who's the acting fisheries administrator. Let's get to know how they're feeling today, and let's start with this conversation. Minister Perez, how are you feeling today?
Good morning, Renata. Good morning, Kevin.
Sir.
And indeed, thank you for inviting me. It's good to be here again.
Good to be here.
Yes.
It's good to meet you for the first time. Yeah, and congratulations on everything that you have been doing. How have you been since you appointed Minister of Blue Economy up to today? What has been your overall feel?
Looking back, I was just prior to entering the show discussing and looking back for the first 17 months that I've been as the Minister of Blue Economy and Civil Aviation. Looking back, we've come a long way. I'm very excited, very motivated, and especially when you're surrounding yourself with a great staff in both ministries, civil aviation and blue economy, we're moving forward, and a lot has been accomplished from literally zero. We didn't have even an office back in November 2020.
Right.
So we've come a long way to the point that I'm very happy that now the blue economy is not only known nationally, but entire region.
Definitely.
I came back from Costa Rica just last weekend to represent my country, our country, when the new president was installed in Costa Rica, and yours truly humble servant was asked to represent the country. And the topic there, everybody was asking me about the blue economy. Everybody was just asking. They want to know about it, and everywhere. And they also at the summit that we had in San Pedro and is key. Even Prime Minister Mia Mottley had keen interest in it, and she was the one that said we must meet with the blue economy team in Barbados because they do have a blue economy ministry in Barbados.
There you go. So you're like the blue economy is, as you already said, has been on the eyes and mouth of everybody. So it's good to have you here so we can get that conversation going. Mr. Quintana, how are you feeling this morning?
I'm doing good. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thanks for inviting us to the show. Good morning, Belize. We're anxious to have this discussion
Are you feeling
today.
the Friday vibe already?
Yes, from yesterday.
From yesterday. I love it.
So-
Thursdays are Friday juniors.
Yeah.
There you
So it's a lot of work we have been doing under the Ministry of Blue Economy. As you know, our mandate as the Fisheries Department. It's a lot of work that we're doing under this new ministry.
Ministry.
I know you guys have been taking some heat too as well from the announcements of the new regulations, the ounces changing as well. And so people, have their speculations and saying, you can't just change this up, Paui, all this stuff that happened. But could you explain a little bit more in depth? I know they have been talking about, why we did change it, but give us the first-hand understanding of what we've signed on to and why there's a need to update the regulations now.
Okay, there have been like 20 sides of this story in communities.
Okay.
Everybody's talking about regulation, then they say we're not consulted, then they're telling people other. But the fisheries regulation that we enacted last year dates back to 2009 when Belize, Belize is part of SICA countries. We also have, on that SICA, we have the Organization of Fisheries and Aquaculture called OSPESCA. And since 2009, we have the documents here. At that time, the Honorable Minister Montero, with the support of the Fisheries Department, at the ministerial level, we signed the regional agreement to have harmonized regulations for the lobster fishery. Since then, countries were given 2 years to implement. That was up to 2011. During those processes, in 2013, 2014, we got support under the Asia, Caribbean, Pacific countries under the European Union. We did a comprehensive review of the entire fisheries regulations, which today we still have some of them in draft. Right?
Okay.
There was consultation in all coastal fishing communities. Actually, last night I was checking the website, and you can see it for yourself. You can see some of those consultations that happened, the picture of those that were engaged.
Yeah, so these were consultations to talk about the closed season.
The entire set of fisheries regulations that were to be
All right.
And this is in
legislated.
2014?
2013, 2014.
2013, 2014. Okay.
So that document was completed after a series of community consultations. It went through the FAO legal office for review also.
Okay.
And they completed that draft in 2014. Okay? Yet, Belize did not move to enact those regulations. In 2018, 2019, Ospesca wrote to Belize, the secretariat, they say, Belize, why you are still, I mean, so many years now, what happened with your regulations? Other countries are moving forward in implementation. Because the way other Central American countries, once you sign those become binding. It's a binding agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
In some of their countries, it becomes law automatically.
Okay.
So we, the then Minister Figueroa, we approached Ospesca, said, give us 1 more year to implement. Give us up to the end of 2020. At that time, we were doing some studies with trying to regulate the escape gap because it calls for 2 1/8 inches at the lower strip of the trap, because we don't have any regulation on escape gap in Belize. Also on using biodegradable strips so that if traps get lost during hurricanes, there's no ghost fishing, for example. And since then, we took the same 2013, 2014 regulation, and we, during the peak of COVID in 2021, we called the main producer and said, you know what, we need to move this process forward.
Right.
Right?
So regulations have now been implemented as of March 1st.
Yes. So since last year in October, because the cooperatives and the producer said, well, give us a chance, let's implement this the next fishing season. So we enacted this in October last year.
Okay.
Now we're almost in the new season, which starts the 1st of July. So we're ready for implementation. There's one thing that we're still doing more studies, and we have to justify to Ospesca why we might not be able to implement the escape gap right now. We need to do more study, because the escape gap that they propose will not retain the 4.5 ounces tails, the lobster tail.
Yeah.
Okay. Minister,
Yeah.
so in that same subject that we're talking about, the lobster regulations, and how Mr. Figueroa mentioned, we're signatories or members of
Mr. Quintana.
Ospesca. What's that?
Mr. Quintana.
Mr. Quintana, sorry. Apologies. So we're members of Ospesca. So what are the benefits that we get as Belizeans to be members of this association? And what has been, so the regulations, as you said, March 1st was implemented. So what has happened since then? We've seen on the news that people are not so pleased about these regulations. And of course, consultations are very key moving forward. So can you give us some insight into
Absolutely.
what has happened after that?
First of all, there are 2 keywords here that Mr. Quintana, the Fisheries Administrator, mentions. Is that one is the regulations, and second word is harmonized. And when we're talking about these regulations that we are in line, we have to be harmonized with what the rest of the region is. It pretty much falls under what the framework of the strategic plan of the Blue Economy calls for the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's there for a reason. It is there. And the other key word in the Blue Economy is sustainable growth.
Right.
We must maintain that. We are here. Remember, it's Blue Economy. It's an economy-based ministry whereby we're here to contribute to GDP. But whatever we extract from the waters is for us to benefit, for all the people living on the coast and for the whole country. But secondly, there's a responsibility on the Blue Economy that we must maintain and preserve whatever our waters have for generations to come. Come back to what the regulations that the administrator is talking about is just really trying to implement it. And I believe that in fact, I know that the Fisheries Department has been very lenient and abundant to be listening to the stakeholders to say, okay, well, let's give it another year. So another point, talking about the escape gap. We have been hearing the cries of the people, and indeed, it makes sense. But again, we have to give justification because it is an agreement that is binding with Ospesca. So therefore, in a sense, it is something that was only there in writing, but had not been implemented. Comes the Blue Economy Ministry that we have to do it. It's now to act on it. And as your minister, and again, engage with the Fisheries Administrator and the entire department, we're here to carry it out. But listening to the cries of our fisher folks there, we understand that as well. And obviously, we're not against them. We're fighting with them. And sometimes, it's indeed, it's their livelihood. We understand that they are going to be reacting. But most of the time, they are misinformed, ill-advised by people who have other ulterior motives in there.
Okay.
And we have been hearing all the different issues coming out all the way from Kikaka, which is my constituency, as well as in Sarteneja and all other places there. And obviously, the litany that we're getting of complaints are all just misinformed. And we are clearing it up this coming week.
So there are going to be meetings too as well to help.
Absolutely. We start Kikaka on Monday.
What I'm thinking about too as well is the fact that you said some of the consultations happened in 2013, 2014. And so I'm just me off at the top of my head. I know that there are probably new fishermen, fisher folk, in general that came into the scene. So maybe they too as well did not get consulted. And well, that was almost 10 years ago too. And so I think there's that little, how do you say that?
Oh yeah, that's
that gap. Are you
ago.
Seeing the gap now? Because we're in 2022, so it's almost like 10 years now. Are you seeing where I'm coming from? Because I could understand now why people be like, I never get consulted or so. And possibly they might have been or might not, but I mean, it's been years, so that's why sometimes you forget the meetings we are going. I'm sure you don't remember all the meetings 7 years ago.
No, of course not. So. But I think if I want to, I don't mean to interject here respectfully, is that this is also another consultation that we have been keeping informed, especially the cooperatives that know about this already.
Right.
So the cooperatives also had another responsibility also to inform their fisher folks as well.
See?
Right?
Okay.
And I know that at times our fisheries department should do the same thing, which we have done. We can do more, of course. But also it is a concerted effort. It is everybody's responsibility, not only to lie squarely on the fisheries department. It is also recalling to the cooperatives as well.
Thank you for mentioning that too, because I think that's important that the information, even if it didn't come from you, it had to come from somewhere else.
Of course.
And so they were supposed to be updated. They're supposed to be engaged
in
the conversation.
They're all members.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Just to add to that, apart from the, we're part of two regional fisheries organizations in the Caribbean also, the Caribbean
CRFM.
Regional Fisheries Mechanism. CRFM also at the ministerial level in 2015 adopted they call it the St. George's Declaration in Grenada. They urge countries to also implement these measures that at Central America we have implemented. And there was a ministerial agreement at that level also. The U.S. market demand also, around 2008, before the OSPESCA regulations came into place, they also have some market restriction as to what size limit they allow for importation.
Okay.
And our major market is the U.S. market. So the U.S. would, as a requirement that lobsters should be on average over 5 ounces lobster, meaning they have a definition for that, meaning that lobster has to be between 4.5 and 5.5 ounces. We even just at the
bigger.
minimum there, right?
So Quintana,
Wow.
it sounds like sooner or later we had to implement these regulations
Yeah.
given
So-
to the different
So
markets that we
even
have.
getting those markets for the 4 ounces in the past, I mean, we have to go way to Canada, to Australia, but the U.S. would not take those sizes
Alright.
of lobster, the 4 ounces. Right?
Great.
And looking at the trend for the past 10 years, we see that probably around 9 or 10% of the production would be affected, but eventually the production should stabilize.
Okay.
It's not 60% that some fishers are saying. I don't know who is making those formulas, but based on sound science data that we have, we were running some analysis and it shows that actually it's 8.7%.
Okay. All right. Well,
And that
thank
goes
you.
to say with the
Yes.
science that all decisions that we make also in the blue economy is based on science-based
Science-based.
information. That's really important.
That's really important.
Now, if I may add to that 4.5 ounces that we're talking about, again, we're talking about this blue economy. It has to be sustainable. And we can understand the complaints of our fisher folks that this year is going to be a bad year. But if we look at science-based information we're getting and the studies we're doing, it is time that we implement it. And in the next 2-3 years, you will certainly have a healthy population of this lobster industry, ensuring not only for the person who is a fisherman today, who has bills to pay, we understand that, but knowing that we from the blue economy are taking into importance and also responsibility of their children, their grandchildren, great-grandchildren for generations to come. That
Exactly.
this is going to be.
For the
That
next
is our
generations of
responsibility
fisher
as of
folks,
today.
right?
We don't make decisions and say how it will deal with it every day. I've always said it. We're not a knee-jerk reaction government. We are there to make plans ahead. Not only think about today, but tomorrow and the future. That is what the blue economy is all about.
Right. So thank you for discussing, the lobster regulations conversation that has been going on. Let's move on to the next topic,
Sure.
which is the issue of sargassum.
I just have one more thing to add to that. We speak about regulations, enforcement, implementation, but we also have to look at the market side of things.
Yes.
Over the past years, as you know, National Fishermen Cooperative, Northern now, they're involved in the Fisheries Improvement Program, whereby the purpose of this program is to look at the established traceability system for the lobster fishery and ensuring that we can access those higher premium markets. We get more for lobster. Actually, this season, prices were excellent over the past 2 years. Fish were getting like $36 per pound of tails.
Okay.
And that also brings more income to the fishers, and in turn, they're also putting out more gears out there. That's the reason in the regulation we're also looking at eventually looking at areas, the current capacity of areas, how much traps you can deploy out there. So it's a lot of science. And under the FIP program, Belize, I think, is one of the 5 countries that is the only country, I think, that was rated B in terms of its management of the lobster fishery. So we are very good on that. We also have access to the European market.
Okay.
Which at least one company, Rainforest down south, they have been exporting to the European market. So
thank you, Mr. Quintana.
Belize is seen as one of the best countries managing its lobster resources.
All right. So we encourage all fisher folks to stay in tune with the Fisheries Department to see what are the upcoming regulations and any updates, and to stay in touch with their cooperatives, because they're the ones that are representing them to know what else comes after these regulations.
At the highest level, at the highest level, since we enacted the revised Fisheries Resources Act, we have the Fisheries Council. In the Fisheries Council, we have membership representation of fisherfolk communities. We have the 2 largest cooperatives represented there, and they represent about 80% of the fisher folks. We also have the Shunush Fisherman Association represented there, and we also have the Hopkins Fisherman Association.
Okay, so I'm guessing
those discussions happen at those levels.
We're going to have a meeting with them and give them updates. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. We've already talked enough lobster for now, so let's talk about sargassum. So there was a meeting yesterday happened in San Pedro, because obviously sargassum is a crisis. We just heard the weather update and saying more sargassum is coming our way. And obviously it has environmental effects, but also impacts on our human health as well. So Minister, can you give us what was the vibe like at this meeting? What are some of the solutions or some of the innovative thinking as to how we can address the situation? We're aware there was like a Mexican pontoon project where they're going to be picking up the sargassum and taking it to Mexico. Can you?
That's from Sardinia. They're going to be picking it up.
No.
Can you share some of those
first of all, there were 2 meetings held in San Pedro and Kikaker simultaneously.
Great.
But the team that came from Playa del Carmen, Mexico, was in San Pedro. Well, of course, in Ambergris Caye, when we call these meetings as it relates to sargassum or anything that is contained, it is very well attended.
Okay.
And it was we had the conference room at the council, and it was packed. It was really packed. So we can understand the interest, and I was not surprised, in fact. But in terms of the sargassum, first of all, the government is leading that. We are looking to it. We know we're in crisis levels, and it has been discussed at length in cabinet. So at this point in time, it's 3 ministries that are leading this sargassum project, with the task group as well. Is co-chaired by the Ministry of Sustainable Development and the Ministry of Tourism, and of course the Blue Economy Ministry as well, an integral part. So both the 3 ministries sent people to Playa del Carmen, including under my ministry, the Holchan Marine Reserve.
Okay.
The team went there to inspect, to look at this ambitious. It seems to be working. It seems to be working for Playa del Carmen, and we looked at it and we believe that we have hit the real deal, if you want to call it that way. So we invited them, they really received us very well there in Playa del Carmen, and we asked them to please come and visit, especially San Pedro, to see how to assess the situation. So this team came down, made the presentation to the people, and the following day we took them on a reconnaissance view of Kikaker, Ambergris Caye, and Caye Chapel, and also they took them on a tour on a boat to look at the different angles of the current and everything, which also we have people on the ground in San Pedro that has studies of the currents that are coming in. So collaborative effort, and the meeting was very successful, and I believe that in the way forward it is going to happen sooner than later, very quickly. other things are falling into place. Cost. What is it going to be, a rental? Is it going to be a partnership? Is it going to be public-private partnership? Either way, that is the least. Right now, we need to know that this can work. If it works, what follows won't be a problem.
Okay, I'm curious. So, what happens with the sargassum that they pick up? What do they do with it?
Is it like fertilizer?
Fertilizer, use it for construction.
I know we've been hearing a lot of things. So,
yeah, there are so many stories you hear about sargassum, right? You can use it for fertilizer. You can talk about make fish feed. We've seen the project where people are making blocks out of it. We're seeing people use it for landfill, which mostly is being used for, again, all of these things. And we have heard the story about using it for energy, to create methane, all of these things. But that is we are ahead that we want to do it. The biggest problem, well, we have, and it's an entire reason, how do you collect it? How do you put it in a place there that is able to do it? If we were able to solve that problem, where we get the sargassum and put it in one area, that would be the least of the problem. Right. But getting it, collecting it, is the cost that entails that we need to pick up or clean the beaches. So in this case here...
You don't want to damage the beaches.
Exactly. And also you have tractors and everything passing by, picking up. That is not also helping the beach. So you are actually creating more beach erosion, fighting this sargassum as well. So therefore, this ambitious plan is to get these pontoon boats. And the unique situation how the reef is in front of Belize. And if we're talking about Caye and Hamburgues Caye, there are channels in between the reef. And when you fly over Hamburgues Caye and Caye, you can clearly see that the sargassum coming from in the deep sea eventually turns into a funnel that passes through these channels. And you see these long lines and swaths of sargassum. So we believe that in this place here, so we use these pontoon boats and to tackle, and by capturing the sargassum out there in those channels, and then take it to an area that we can designate to do so. Right. So we believe that a fleet of these pontoon boats and a bigger barge to pick up can work. How is it going to be powered is the question. We need to use gas, manpower, all of these things. So it's going to come.
People trained as well to be using this.
But the most important is that we have identified the mechanism that can help us mitigate this problem.
Right. So, I mean, this is addressing the sargassum situation. Like, it's there. We know that it's not going to end right now. It's an effect of climate change, which is created by humans, right? Yes. So what is there within the Ministry of Blue Economy that addresses climate change that eventually will trickle in minimizing the production of sargassum by the environment?
Well, you know, one of the first things you need to know is that with this sargassum becoming, you know, it is actually, and I need to share this with you, is that the extreme amount of sargassum coming to the shores of Belize, the entire coast, is also affecting adversely the seagrass. Seagrass is an integral part of what you call the blue economy. That is a carbon absorber big time across the country, and we recognize that. That sargassum is also something that is causing problems. I've seen areas in San Pedro, the tongue itself, whereby there was a rich amount of feet and feet all the way out of seagrass. It's gone. And that has happened in the past 2-3 years when we had about, what year was it, Mr. Quintana? When there was just extreme this year that we have it, about 3 years ago, I believe it was 2009, 2018. It was extreme. So this year is really a bad year. So. Yeah.
We definitely can see Mother Nature is fighting back at us because, you know, we've been on her territory and we haven't been taking care of it. We haven't been sustainable as much as we should be. Okay. And so now it's really thinking of, like you said, the initial part, because people just see it as a problem. People are talking about, you know, the inconvenience it brings to when you're doing your normal vacations, when you're living your normal life. Because I can imagine if you complain about going on a vacation, the people that live around the areas that have to smell and endure that overall toxin is not a... It's not a beautiful sight, a beautiful smell or anything. So, but also, again, people do need to be understanding that we have to try to plan this properly because this, again, is our ecosystem. This, again, needs to be taken care of well and planned out properly so we don't make no more erosion. We know we have to do it in a way that we can understand what's going to happen thereafter because next thing you know, we're going to rush to do it and then we have to go plan because we're rushing when never do it properly or something like that. So, do you... I don't like give too much timelines, but in your mind, as the meetings are going right now and, you know, the collaboration is happening, do you see maybe in like the next month that something will be happening, 2 months? What do you think will happen?
Certainly. We are making a report to submit to Cabinet. And from there, we make a decision as to how much we continue to read. So the talks have begun. Okay. And we have already on the ground, the experts who are there with us are there saying this is the real deal. So we already have identified something. And we know that we do not have much time, but we have to act now. We can't say, let's leave it for next year, because the sargassum right after September, October, it starts to die down. We'll deal with it with this year. No, we're saying as of now, we prepare now, even if it's by the time it's implemented, the sargassum season is over, but we prepare for the following year. It's planning. So we cannot be no longer a government that used to be before that says, oh, it's a natural thing. We can't do anything. We heard, San Pedro has been listening for so many years to say, cross their arms and say, it's natural, it's phenomenon, it's climate change. We can't do nothing, so we leave the sargassum. There was no plan. We have a plan now. So it's about implementing no later than this year so that next year we're ready to fight the sargassum issue.
And speaking of plans and just the idea of solutions, we understand that, you met with, silk key. I mean, it's a silk grass, and make up a whole new key now. Imagine. So you've met with Silk Key, the residents there, they were doing their own thing, and then it's become now a collaboration. Can you tell us a little bit about what's been happening on the Sun? Because from what we get, they've been truly happy about the meetings that came out now moving forward, that there is going to be, initiatives, phases that are going to go through with their help and collaboration. So could you give us some updates on those meetings and what's happening?
Certainly. We had a very fruitful meeting. It was very amicable. Obviously, the key word in there was a collaborative effort. And also, there was a miscommunication, misunderstanding. Look, Silk Key has been there for decades. There were 3 keys. 2 have disappeared. 1 is in danger of disappearing. And the community decided that we have to do something. But the blue economy encompasses the entire blue space of Belize. Silk Key is not only the island is disappearing. In fact, right now, as we speak, right now, Gulf Key has been closed as of this week here for the next 6 months because it's in going restoration. We have secured funding, $2 million to fix and to see how we can do it. And I was just there this week, and I recall going there many, many years as a high schooler, that island was bigger than that. So sharing with our people from Placencia is first to understand that all islands is dynamic. They shift, they change. It's not something, an island is never the same and never changes. With time, it shifts. Even in Gulf Key, the sandbars switch, changes with the tide, the season, when it's cool season or whatever, when it's in December, it changes. Back to our people from Placencia, is understanding these things. We must work together. The community alone cannot do it. What we're saying is the blue economy must lead. The ministry is leading. We have people who have the technical know-how, the technical expertise on how to do it. And it was just a bit of miscommunication. But in the end, we realized we're not stopping you. We're not against you. We're here to support you. Let's get it right. We can even save resources. For example, the foreign material that was brought in is not the adequate material that was used. They're using river sand, and that is not good. It's actually not helping. You're actually polluting. The bags that are being used as well is plastic bags. That are used. Although they say it's brand new, give it a couple of weeks, that is going to degrade, and it turns into what you call microplastics. So we're not condemning them. We're not throwing them under the bus. We just want to get it right with them. We are working along with them. We have a fruitful meeting with them, and we are working along with them. So nobody's getting arrested. Nobody's getting. But we're saying, take it easy, and we all agreed. Let's take it easy. Your gesture is noble. We recognize it. So let's use it the right way by partnering with the Fisheries Department, and as well to our co-managers there with sea as well, that also plays a role there as well. So all of us pulling together, we can at least help restore that.
I'm curious though, what is the right way? Because you keep on saying, so there's people that have the passion, they're reacting to a situation that's urgent. So what is the right way that the blue economy sees about addressing this issue at Silk Key? Because I hear you were saying, the islands changed, tides and everything, but 2 islands have disappeared already, right? So that's beyond just sandbars shifting. So what is the plan?
That is what we're saying. Listen, I can understand the passion of the community. That is nothing new to me. Right. I come from a Burgess ski, and my people are very passionate. Everything that comes here first to react, and rightfully so, they have a right to do so, and the people of Placencia. But what I'm saying is that we must understand something first. Silk Key is not disappearing overnight. It's been for years now. And we made something clear with them. You won't save the island over a weekend.
Of course.
That's the first thing we need to do. You cannot save that island over a weekend and expecting, so because it's a holiday, let's go and work and lose. No, it is constant. So this is where we are coming in to work with them for a long-term plan. Just like how we are doing for Gulf Ski, we recognize a silk key.
Right.
So we're working
what
along with
what
them.
is that plan? That's my question.
To work along with them, we have another meeting scheduled. When are we doing, Mr. Quintana? We're
There's a follow-up meeting
Yes.
on site
On site.
early next week, taking the relevant departments, and then we have even coastal engineering coming now to advise and see how best this phase could be completed, and see on the future long term, and see what other proper engineering structures can be put in place in the area.
exactly, and also the Department of Environment is going along with us also.
But you asked earlier in terms of the community airport was good. As to any other developer in this country, we have the regulatory part of things that you need to abide by, and we're trying to work with the community and say, but let's go through the proper process,
Right.
ensuring that the adequate mitigation measures are in place if we are to continue to work on the island and the community initiative thus far. So people have offered more support. We have a coastal engineer going there to assess and see how best this phase can be completed in time.
Right. So logistically, what's going to happen when it comes to this plan? I mean, how are we going to ensure that this last silky stays there or at least is saved?
Well, the engineers, they will advise on a long-term plan. This is just one phase of the project. The community has been saying, you know what, we need a larger areas. These are areas that everybody use, bring in tourists. They don't have proper restroom facilities. Maybe in the future, you can look at having some housing structures there to accommodate, to cater for the amount of tourists. We also have to look at the current capacity of these silkies once it is properly restored.
Mr. Quintana, I totally understand that, but I think what I guess Kevin is trying to say, and also what I understood from the villagers in their overall meetings and interviews as well, is just that, you know, this assessment, how long would that take? Because I know you said none of it disappear overnight, but, you know, the longer we take to just assess, and just do this and dialysis of this and whatever it is, the longer it takes for the quicker the erosion starts as well. And so you were mentioning how you're going to be offering better resources to equip with the overall process. So, like, when would that be happening?
okay.
When would
This process that has been started, we expect like in a couple of weeks' time that
Okay.
we should give the clearance from the OE, Fisheries Department give the permitting to finish it. Then other works, more studies to see how best the government can, under the blue economy, the community could be supported to expand the area. But
Yeah.
just for this phase that has started, it's a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Renata, and I want to answer back again to add to what Mr. Quintana is saying, is that there is a possibility, actually, we discussed in the meeting, that instead of bringing foreign material, that we are able to do it in a very environmental sound way, is to extract white sand right there from the reef around that area. We're, of course, doing it the right way in compliance with the Department of Environment, is to extract that very same sand that is going to complement the island. That is going to happen soon, very soon.
Okay.
Instead of bringing foreign material, this is what we are sharing with our community that had the meeting, is that the resources that we were taking, it's costing to get these bags of sand. Let's do it the right way, and we can actually extract sand right there from the reef in a very environmental sound way. And that is where they realize that if we come with us, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. And it's going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah, because that's the thing where I feel like the villagers and most of the time environmental activists just think, you know, we love the fact that we have to do it the right way, we understand the process, but sometimes these processes take so long, and in all that time that we're waiting, you know, the island, we got 4 trees. We don't want to end up with 3 or 2. So
Right.
One thing Blue Economy, the ministry and the Fisheries Department realize is that it is a tourist destination. So we need to deal with it quickly.
exactly.
All right, so we from government understand that as well. And I know that we made it clear to our community. We understand that. We don't left it, we don't buy time, we don't clear the smoke off of this controversy, move on to the next. No, it's not about outing the fire, it's about dealing with it. And that's what we're doing shortly. Understanding that it is a tourist destination. And Placentia people look forward to it.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Minister Perez, for being here. Thank you so much, Mr. Quintana, for being here, for all the great work that you guys are doing. I'm sure a lot of people got clarification on when it comes to the lobster regulation, understanding, you know, Sargassum. We're going to be having more meetings, but roughly, as you mentioned, in a month or so, we're going to be seeing a little bit more actual, you know, practical things happening. And then as well, when it comes to silk key, right now we're doing the evaluations and analyzing. We're going to get engineers in, but also in a couple of weeks too as well, we're going to be see actual movements happening. It's a collaboration, so the villagers, Placentia, will be definitely involved in the overall situation. And so next week we're having another meeting too as well. And so again, fruitful collaboration is what we're looking at, because we need to take care of our country.
Absolutely.
It needs to be sustainable. We need to be doing and planning properly, but let's not make the planning last so long that we can't implement stuff. So by all means, thank you so much for being here, and good luck on your next meeting, because I know you're a busy person, and so you're supposed to go to cabinet, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Parliament. We're going national house sitting.
Okay, yes. So good luck on that. And so with that, we go to our next commercial break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.